Okay, welcome. I think we all know we're going to talk about North Korea today. Previous times when I was basically streaming on no particular topic, people asked me to comment on North Korea. And I have commented at times, very briefly. But the truth of the matter is that, I know a little about North Korea, but I've never had enough of a knowledge base to really, tell you, oh, this is really what's going to happen. I'm not like, for example, Scott Adams, who's like, um, every day he's like, oh, this is probably what's going to happen. Um, with North Korea, I don't have any, I don't feel the confidence to know what's going to go on because it's a country that we don't have real updated information from day to day. We don't have people who can report freely from the country. It's kind of unknown territory compared to other countries that I deal with on the show. And I kind of say that because, if there's a topic that's going on in the Middle East, I am able to like take an article or maybe a video. I don't know about a whole article that's in Arabic, for example, kind of decipher some of the meaning. And even then, I'm not always comfortable. In Hebrew, I could too. Of course, there's also English language publications over there. And when you're talking about Latin America, I also, I at least understand Spanish. I don't speak it. I would say I'm so-so when I speak Spanish. I don't have to. All I'm doing is I'm interpreting what I'm reading. The same thing with Italian. If you can speak or understand Spanish, Italian is part of the way there. They're both Romance languages. As for the French, fuck them. And that's about it. So with North Korea, I have to tell you that video yesterday of Trump and Kim meeting and turning to the crowd or the group of people there and shaking their hands. That was really, it was a breathtaking moment for me. I was really kind of in disbelief at how, things that you would never have imagined happening in a million years, suddenly they just appear before your eyes, and it makes you believe that in the impossible. Okay, now at the same time, the doubters are around, and they do have a point. You can't really count your eggs before they hatch. Let's see if there's anybody. Pinochet's here. I haven't seen your last video yet, but I do have it on my watch list. So I think he dissects the word liberal. Pinochet, if you ever want to come on a live stream, let me know. I don't know if today's a good one for you, but just contact me. Or, how the fuck would you contact me? I don't think you even have any big, I don't think you have any social media that you even talk about. Pink Pony says, hey. Right back at you. Did you hear Acosta acting like, well, Acosta, yes, I did. There's something where eventually you kind of have to, CNN has to decide, are they a journalistic outlet, or are they kind of there as basically, in order to entertain themselves? Because I don't think anybody else finds what CNN is doing to be, journalism. It's really, it's a joke right now. It's not a funny joke. It's in fact, it's a little sad. And yeah. So last week it was Kim Kardashian, and this week it's Kim Jong-un. Looks like Donald Trump has good luck, at least, whenever he encounters somebody named Kim. I guess he does pretty well. I mean, what are you going to say? People complain too much about, things that we don't know what's going to happen, okay? Is it possible that North Korea could screw us on this deal? Absolutely. However, let's talk about the way that they're handling it. They're basically saying there's no point in engaging with a country like North Korea because they're deceptive, they're cruel, they're inhumane, they starve their own population. Look, I'm not a fan of North Korea. I think North Korea is a horrible country to live in. I'm not like that idiot Caleb Maupin that Lionel Nation talks to, who's like, oh, they have this amazing, their own unique way of organizing a society called Juche. Whenever anybody tries to tell you, oh, there's a unique way that they organize their society, that's trying to tell you that this is a place where you can't apply the standards of anywhere else in the world, and therefore there's no point in debating it. Okay? Pinochet says I'll have to look into how that's done. Yeah, you're gonna have to get into contact with me, man. You're already on my Discord, by the way. I haven't seen you post anything. You said you're gonna drop some links there, bro. It's just cut and paste. But yeah, deport the ginger. Yeah, fuck him. Yeah, at this point, why not deport him? He thinks North Korea is a better country than here. And Trump is getting good relations with North Korea. You deport him, then he can go. Yesterday I did have that rage out phone call. People probably thought I was angry while I was calling into him. I was laughing my ass off on the phone because this guy is believing that Abby Martin is a real journalist. She's not a real journalist. Caleb Maupin is approaching that level of idiocy. I would say Abby Martin is much worse, but yeah, Caleb Maupin reporting for Russia Today. He's a hardcore Workers' World activist, Workers' World Party, one of the communist parties in the U.S., and he's working for a media outlet owned by a country that they abandoned communism almost 30 years ago. I mean, wake up and smell the perestroika, retard. The guy's out of his mind. Pink Pony, Kim and Donald are gingerly touching tips. Ill. What is that emoticon, by the way? It's an interesting one. Oh, French bread. Yeah, it's kind of disgusting. Ew. Abby Martin would make the worst lesbian. There's this dude that I know who's like he's a neocon. He's a friend of mine, but he's a neocon. He always says, don't you think Abby Martin, as much as you hate him, don't you think she's hot? I have to say, after all the material I've seen her produce, I think I would say that I have zero attraction to her now. I think she's probably, she looks pretty much like, what's his name? What's the guy's name? The starfish from SpongeBob SquarePants to me. Not Squidward. Anyway, let's talk about what we're going to talk about. Okay, so the New York Times, what do they publish on the day that this happens? This is from a guest writer. It says John Gans, who's a writer in Brooklyn. He says it's impossible to characterize a historical period before it's over, but I think one plausible name for our era will be the age of the charlatan. Everywhere you turn, there seems to be. I think there's a band called the Charlatans that's pretty good. I don't remember though. I ran out of berry juice. Everywhere you turn, there seems to be some kind of quack or confidence man catering to an eager audience. Fox News hosts like Sean Hannity have moved from pushing ill-informed opinion to flat-out conspiracy mongering. Pickup artists tell tried and true methods for isolated young men to seduce women. and sophists pass off stale pedantries as dark and radical thought, selling millions of books in the process. So that the last attack, they're attacking 3 people. First of all, I mean, okay, let's say 4 people or 4 groups. First and foremost, Donald Trump. Second, Sean Hannity. As if, who gives a shit? A lot of people think that if you're a so-called conservative or you might vote for Trump, that you watch Sean Hannity. I don't think I've seen an episode of Hannity in over 5 years. It's not because I dislike Hannity. It's just his style is like, give me a fucking break already. Literally every story is about Trump. I like to tune into a show. Alicia Clegg, by the way, another YouTuber, does a show on cults once in a while. She doesn't do a show every day on trannies. Let's see if Pink Pony has something to say about trannies. What's up? Just My Stupid Opinion is back. Just My Stupid Opinion. By the way, I tagged you on a post earlier. I want to know if you saw it. Patrick, yeah, that's right. Patrick from SpongeBob SquarePants. You like the berry juice, huh? Yes, sir. Pinochet says, I don't know how to use a computer, but I know who a SpongeBob character is, no problem. Yep. Anyway, so let's keep reading this. So Donald Trump is for the first charlatan in his mind, okay? Then there's Sean Hannity, of all people. As if everybody in the world watches Sean Hannity. Yeah, his ratings are really good because everybody else on cable TV is just god-awful. So by default, somebody has to be number one. It's not as if he's an amazing TV host. I would say that certain things he does I do like, but, I don't watch his show. I'll see a clip here from here and there. I'll see a clip, but, by the same token, I see a clip of, what's that show on RT? Crosstalk. I love that show. Because it's a good fucking show. Then he attacks pickup artists. This person is living. I'll tell you what year this person's living in. The year 2007. That's when the pickup artist books started hitting. The mystery book. That's when they started hitting the market. He's living about 11 years ago. And the sophists who pass off stale pedantries as dark and radical thought. Yeah, he's attacking Jordan Peterson without naming him. If this guy is such an amazing writer, why does he have to take a shot at somebody that the New York Times won't even publish on its bestseller list? I'm reading Jordan Peterson's book right now. I'm not going to say it's the greatest book I've ever read, but he has some interesting things. It's just advice for people from a clinical psychologist. One of the things I think he, one of the 4 rules that I've read so far is be the friend to yourself that will help yourself get better, some crap like that. Obviously, if I can't remember it, I'm either the book isn't that good or I'm too dumb to really understand it. so you guys can, how about that? We'll do a straw poll right now. Okay, I'll do a poll right now. We'll go to straw poll, new poll. Okay, but you can only choose one. Is 12 rules for life not that good, or is bold like a leopard too dumb to understand it? Yeah, we'll just cut this one, right? We'll just leave in that shitty punctuation too, right? We'll just put in ellipsis, right? I mean, there's a fantastic show already, right? We're debating, whether Jordan Peterson's book is that good, or whether the host of the show is basically an intellectual, jackass. Let's see. So, spam prevention. Okay, so I can't vote in the poll because obviously I haven't read the whole book. But you can do that, and I'll put the poll over here in the chat. Okay, so you can vote. Is 12 Rules for Life not that good of a book, or am I just a moron? Using that website to get IP. Jimmy Ross, I don't see you that much better. 12 Rules to give a better BJ. This pink pony is like all about like the sexy trolling. It's good. I think it might be somebody getting revenge on me, but this guy's doing it very well. If it's a dude, it might be a dude and a chick at the same time. Just my stupid opinion. Handy jumped the shark after the training session with Chuck Liddell. I don't remember that. You like the poll. This guy can't win. All right, we're gonna have to take a break from him. I'll check in later. We'll look at like his most sexual. I mean, keep getting. I mean, I want Pinochet get into like a whole disgusting joke thing with him. Get into some sort of debate over it. I know you like to put in those weird trolling things too. All right, so what makes us so vulnerable to charlatans today? In part, it's the complexity of the modern world and the rate of technological and social change. Quackery provides what Saul Bellow once called a 5-cent synthesis, boiling down the chaotic tangle of the age into simple nostrums. Modern life bombards us into exhaustion and boredom as much as anxiety. Sometimes we're just looking for entertainment and a surprising notion. I find it ironic that he talks about quackery when the New York Times runs, every day the column Conscience of a Liberal by the biggest economic quack there is, Paul Krugman, who's an idiot, who predicted that after the election, the economy would tank and never recover. After the election, it would just go down and, fuck, dead. And, apparently that didn't happen so far as I know. I could be wrong. It could be that they're living in reality and I'm living in basically, I'm living in basically some sort of mud palace in the middle of the planet of Tatooine somewhere. By the way, we're going to get into Star Wars a bit for those of you nerds. Not that much into it because I haven't seen Solo. I'm not planning to go watch the movie right now because I just can't take all the fucking fandom, fighting with the SJWs and everything. But we will get into the business side. But I think we have also forgotten that charlatans exist, or that they exist for us and not just for other people. We all like to think of ourselves as pretty sharp. Oh, projection, right? And the term itself sounds old-fashioned. We laugh at how people in the past fell for phony remedies but never supposed we could fall for the same tricks. A largely forgotten book from an earlier and similarly discontented era offers insight. In 1937, a journalist named Greta De Francesco published a volume called Die Macht des Charlatans, or The Power of the Charlatans, a history of the quacks and mountebanks that roamed Europe in the Middle Ages and early modern period. She was Austrian and had been a writer for the Frankfurter Zeitung. But with the Nazis in power, it makes sense that her book about demagogues manipulating crowds was published in Switzerland. It garnered attention. So another thing, they had to throw in a Nazi reference, right? Had to throw it in somehow, shoehorn it in there. It garnered attention in academic circles, and was positively reviewed by the literary critic and philosopher Walter Benjamin. Thomas Mann wrote a blurb for the cover when the book was translated into English in 1939, but has long been out of print. Miss De Francesco explains the word charlatan comes from the Italian charlatano, which, itself comes to related to the verb charlare, which means to babble or to go on incessantly without reflection. That's similarly in Spanish. Charlarse means to basically chat. I think that's that's where the word chat comes from. I'm pretty sure. The original charlatans would babble on and on to mesmerize their audience. Medieval and Renaissance mountebanks often employed and it just goes on and on and on and on. Often employed elaborate shows featuring musicians, clowns, and performing animals to captivate an audience on the town square. Miss De Francesco observes that this was the beginning of the mass communication techniques perfected by the public relations and advertising industries. Crucially, the charlatan provides palliatives for a confused public. These nostrums can be either literal pills or phony ideas, for as Miss De Francesco notes, a quack is a quack whether he sells opinions or elixirs. Frequently, they sell both. See, for example, Alex Jones, one of the most popular charlatans of the present age. So they had to go. The New York Times had to go at Alex Jones. Somebody who, to be honest with you, what the fuck do you care? He's down in Texas selling, super male pony. Yeah, nice pronoun. Hannity showed a clip of Obama working out with 10-pound dumbbells, then does a 5-minute montage of working with Liddell to show he's tougher and better. Yeah, that is kind of pathetic. Yeah, I think Pink Pony took off. What the hell? I was having fun. What the hell? Yeah, they played Eye of the Tiger. Didn't you hear where? I mean, they are everywhere. The Hannity montage was quite cringe. Has anyone read Cognitive Infiltration by David Griffin? Oh, okay. So the Pink Pony, yeah, don't go away. I want to see this. So let's see how the polls are doing. Okay, so one person voted. Thank you. Thank you for doing your civic duty. The rest of you can vote. The straw poll, let's put it back in the chat. Okay. And okay. This person seems familiar. I'm going to have to guess later who this is. Of course, it could be somebody trying to pretend that it's somebody that knows me. In which case, maybe that book is making me feel paranoid. By the way, there are primaries going on right now in South Carolina, Virginia, Nevada, and North Dakota. North Dakota, it's already been settled. And, to be honest with you, I think when people show up at the voting booth in North Dakota, they're actually kind of excited to learn there's other people living in the state besides them. So I don't think there's really any news about that. But in the House, in this district, District 1, Mark Sanford has lost the Republican primary. For those of you that don't know, Mark Sanford is an idiot. He used to be governor of South Carolina. And he was banging his mistress from, I think she was from Argentina or something. And he was basically doing like the most piss poor job of hiding it. And then he basically went on vacation without telling anybody, left South Carolina. This was only about 4 or 5 years ago, and left the state basically to fend for itself. I think then his wife, Karen Sanford, she ended up winning the governorship there or something. Am I getting this wrong? Well, let's look this up. The guy was an idiot. I mean, I don't know how he got elected to Congress after this. Let's see, Mark Sanford. So he used to be governor. Then, yeah, Nikki Haley took over. So all of the people who hate Nikki Haley, I personally don't have a problem. I I don't think she's great. I just think that people make a big deal out of her. Some people think that she's like basically the greatest thing since sliced bread because she basically goes there to the to the UN and you know throws bitch fits at everybody else, which is I guess she does a good job of that. Samantha Power used to do the same thing and was also an idiot. Samantha Power, who used to complain that the U.S. did nothing about the Rwanda genocide, and then she became UN ambassador and did literally nothing about the Syrian civil war. So, so we've had every time we send a female ambassador to the UN, they end up becoming a histrionic bitch over there. But look, I mean, women don't despair. Women, you have Katie Arrington, who's going to be possibly becoming the next female congresswoman from South Carolina. So, you know, put that in your pipe and smoke it. Okay. Yo, that was you. Okay, so everybody else vote. Let me see here. All right. So, yeah, that's pretty much what I thought. I mean, if so, I'm basically from this poll we can conclude that you guys either you've already read 12 Rules for Life by Jordan Peterson, or you're assuming that whatever level of cognitive, you know, cognitive reading the book is at, I'm too dumb to read it anyway. So maybe because of your impression of me from the show, but we'll keep going with this, right? We're making good progress. We have 7 more articles to go through, and we're through 3 paragraphs of the first one. So then they go at a similar case as Mike Cernovich, who hawks guerrilla mindset, timeless strategies to unleash the animal within you as a way for the proverbial 90-pound weakling to become an alpha male. Look, Mike Cernovich, if the New York Times has to resort to attacking Mike Cernovich, they really have sunk to a new low. Okay, Alex Jones, Mike Cernovich, they're not people who need the New York Times in order to sell their books or their dick pills or those T-shirts. I think I even have an InfoWars T-shirt here. But this is Paul Joseph Watson, okay, who I think is hilarious. But then they you buy one thing from them, and basically then they think you need those pills that'll basically make you grow a new kidney or something. There is a point where you have to say enough, but people think that because, in fact, I had an argument with Carlos Cordova a while ago, who might be on Thursday, and we're arguing back and forth. He's like, why can't you just admit that you like the Alex Jones show? I'm like, why do I have to admit it? I mean, it's fine. I like the Alex Jones show. I watch it. I think it's hilarious. And he's like, no, but you also watch it for the news. I'm like, I watch it, I also watch other shows for the news that I don't necessarily agree with. I'll watch, for example, Al Jazeera. I'll watch a clip from there. And I might use it for something that I'm doing. So, does that make me an Al Jazeera fan? And to tell you the truth, I mean, Al Jazeera is not as entertaining as the Alex Jones show. Let's see what people have to say about that. Pink Pony has all the good emojis here. It says, Elmo is surprised by my tickle, guess where? Nikki Haley and Abby Martin scissoring in a tree, gross. Yeah, that's not a very nice picture, but at least it's better than like Madeleine Albright and Samantha Power. An avocado. Releasing the animal over Cernovich's ill. This is disgusting, man. Infowars are on Trump's dick 24/7. There was during the Syrian war thing, or not the war, but during the bombing, the last Tomahawk missile bombing. There's a hilarious clip. Let's pull it up. I think we need a laugh. Alex Jones. This was great.
Donald Trump. Fuck him. Fuck his family. Fuck all these people. All right, see, I shouldn't even be live right now. When are we going on the fucking satellite? God fucking damn it, man. What the fuck? Is there nobody fucking pure in this goddamn fucking world? See, now I'm fucking pissed right now. Syria fought Al-Qaeda, they fought ISIS, they fought it all. And now you got Mattis and fucking all these people shitting all over us. And the goddamn fucking liberal fascists censoring us everywhere the last 2 days. We did an emergency fucking 36-hour broadcast trying to stop this shit that could lead to World War III. And you fucking liberal pieces of fucking shit, you fucking assholes, fucking support this. Fuck you. You fucking goddamn degenerate fucks. And fucking Mueller and fucking Comey and fuck you. Every major analyst.
Yeah, that was amazing. Let me see here. Do I disturb you, sir? Pink Pony kind of reminds me of that character from Silence of the Lambs, Buffalo Bill. It's kind of like creepy but hilarious at the same. You know what? No, it's a little more creepy than hilarious. Pink Pony, Buffalo Bill. Do you guys really want to read through the rest of this? Yeah, they actually, he goes on to here, like the clowns he shared the town square with, a good charlatan could often juggle, simultaneously keep up pretensions to scientific rigor and mystical profundity. The most sophisticated mountebanks employed a hodgepodge drawn from science, alchemy, astrology, myth, and philosophy. As Miss DiFrancesco wrote, through his mysterious and appealing lectures, they were guided away from the cold sobriety of genuine knowledge and in the picturesque realms of pseudoscience. These fake scientific talks were indeed excitingly mystical, yet to all appearances they could be understood by the common man. That passage could be a description of Jordan Peterson's popular YouTube videos, melanges that include everything from evolutionary psychology to Jungian archetypes to Taoism. His book, 12 Rules for Life, An Antidote to Chaos, has sold 1 million copies, combining hokey self-bromides like make friends with people who want the best for you with cosmic explanations drawn from Babylonian myths or from Darwinian biology. You know what? What I find ironic, he probably couldn't get away with doing the same thing with Deepak Chopra, who's an Indian self-help guru. I don't think... Maybe you guys know a little better, but I don't think Deepak Chopra is necessarily a religious person, but I think he's into kind of that, pop Buddhism or something, or pop spirituality or something, which is fine. I mean, I don't have any problem with people buying Deepak Chopra's books, but what's the purpose of attacking Peterson's books and videos? When, with all due respect, people do not want to hear from the New York Times, which is basically the fountain of snobbery. Okay, people don't give a shit about what they think anymore. Like Bragadino, the 16th century confidence man who used his command of alchemy to live for a while at the expense of the Venetian Republic, or like the more famous Cagliostro, the 18th century Prince of Quacks, who was a favorite of Marie Antoinette. Mr. Peterson is now finding favor with the great and the good, even among respectable gatekeepers of public opinion, including seasoned newspaper columnists. The issue here is that there is a belief that newspapers are supposed to be gatekeepers of public opinion, and they're not. The reality is, if I present to you a topic, let's pick one. If I present you a topic, let's say the other day I was talking about LeBron James. It's my opinion that LeBron James is not as good of a basketball player as Michael Jordan. Then I present to you why, for reason A or whatever, and why For example, I think Kobe might be worth discussion as being, either number 2 or number 3. I think, it's conjecture. Okay, it doesn't mean that if somebody comes to me and says, well, Kobe Bryant is definitely the best basketball player in NBA history. It doesn't mean that I'm the gatekeeper because I'm, for example, let's say I'm playing USA Today. I'm the USA Today columnist. I say, no, unacceptable. You can't pick Kobe. That's not the way. That's not the way a free society works. That's actually the way, basically, a feudal society works. That you basically say that, this is, for example, this is the cloister where all the monks are, and they basically are the educated people in the city, and the rest. This is, that's the way Italian society would function back in the Middle Ages and the Renaissance. The Renaissance wasn't a great period for all Italians. It was a great period for, the Italians that could earn enough money to get an education, or the priests that were able to bang a lot of sluts and pretend that they were being pious, while at the same time, they were the smartest people because, being a priest meant that you would get an education, and I'm not against Catholics, okay? If you're a Catholic, I'm not trying to attack you. I'm just saying that's the way it was in Italy back then, okay? There's a reason Machiavelli came out of there. See any reactions here? Go to Chernovich's Twitter, ask him a valid question, and wait to see how fast he blocks you. I get it. I just don't, I'm not saying he's the greatest thing ever. I'm just saying, why would you care so much that you're gonna write an op-ed in the New York Times that makes it to Real Clear Politics about how he's basically that you're going to call him a charlatan. You work for the New York Times. The New York Times is basically the New York charlatans now. It rubs lotion on the skin. I like this guy. This pink pony guy. Let's keep him. Damn liberals. Liberals are stupid. He's the right-wing equivalent of Whoopi Goldberg. You see, the difference, I think, is that Alex Jones, he does run his own show, okay? And he's not afraid to say, look, I present the news, but I'm also opinionated, and I sure as hell think that these people, they have sulfur, they smell like sulfur, and they're demons or something. You watch InfoWars, you're not pretending that you're getting basically the unadulterated truth with no opinion whatsoever. I think people can accept that. You can also make fun of him. I've been making fun of him this entire time with his dick pills and his. But I like the show. What do you want? Do you want me to stop watching the show because you think that he's an asshole? Because I'm not going to stop watching it. My dad used to tell me, why does your mom let you watch Jerry Springer when you come home from school? And I'd say, well, she would walk past the TV and say, this is disgusting. And then she'd walk back again and say, I can't believe you're watching this. The third time she would sit down and watch it too. That's basically the way that it happened. Because it's, to be honest with you, the Jerry Springer show was amazing. Yeah, that was when I was 11 years old. It puts the lotion in the basket. Challenger joke. King of the cross-eyed chicken chokers. I don't like them putting chemicals in the water that turn the frickin' frogs gay. Yeah, we're not gonna watch that one this time, but I like it. I like it. If you don't like that clip, you don't know how to enjoy yourself. Okay, there's more of you that haven't voted yet. You're gonna have to vote for this poll. Okay. Disturbing, but not. Miss DiFrancesco would argue surprising. The danger arises, she explains, when the serious-minded journalist strives to be open-minded, finds something interesting in the charlatan's discourses, and ends up being just another puffer. Particularly if a person thinks of himself as clever, he will often have a hard time admitting his own ignorance. If the opinionated person belongs to the ranks of the quack's predisposed victims, he will sublimate his doubts by magnifying the person or the occurrence about which he is dubious to silence his own conscience. He will refuse to swallow the insinuations of the skeptics, and to soothe himself invents stories which attract ever more throngs to the impostor. It's also clear that Miss DeFrancesco saw a this is what also sucks about the New York Times. After the first time they introduce the person, it has to you can't say their last name, DeFrancesco. It has to be Mr. or Mrs. or Miss DeFrancesco. Saw a parallel between the totalitarian movements of her own time and the charlatans in her book. She believed they both reduce people to the lowest common denominator. They viewed mankind as a totality, seeing persons only in their special functions as buyers, purchases of nostrums or theories. How can we avoid the snares of the charlatan? Fortunately, we live in a literate society. The compiled judgments and experiences of the past are still available to us, and we have really seen this all before. Have you then? Have you? I mean, how about then you explain how you would solve the Korea situation, as opposed to the guy doing it right now? Ms. DeFrancesco says some people just won't fall for it, but some people always will. They want to believe and would only hate the argumentative expert who tries to injure the object of their faith. So, remonstrating at length might not always be worth it. Neither does smugness make us any less likely to be succored, and in fact, it can make us more open to humbug so long as we can sneer at it later. As William Hazlitt wrote, we affect. So this is first of all, we've arrived at the end. Okay, let's read through it. Okay, we affect to laugh at the folly of those who put faith in nostrums but are willing. So again, another person who uses the word nostrums. So this looks like a preferred word of this asshole. But are willing to see ourselves whether there is any truth in them. But maybe one way to avoid becoming taken in by a charlatan is to avoid acting like one. In place of their pomp and self-seriousness, some self-irony might be in order. And against the pretension to understand every single social ill according to some simple formula or another, some humility might help. When someone offers a too easy explanation, we might choose instead the less satisfying but far healthier, I don't know. Well, let me tell you something. When you call Jordan Peterson a charlatan, okay, you do have to recognize that this is a person who he's a you can dispute there. I know that in psychology, I think I took one semester of psychology in community college, and it was like it seemed easy as hell and also boring. But I do know that there's a difference between those that believe in Jungian psychology and Freudian. So there's people who would say, if you're a Jungian, you're an idiot, like GAD.AI, or not an idiot. They dispute it. There's a Jungian archetypes. That's what they talk about. The people who believe in him. So GAD.AI made a couple videos last week trying to demonstrate how Jung was kind of an idiot in and of himself. His passages, the stuff that he would write about, didn't make any sense. And that's valid. What this guy is talking about is basically saying, this whole book of advice on how to live your life, as Jordan Peterson writes, he talks about, for example, in the one about the good friends, he talks about friends of his who never try to get better. And, basically they hung around with other people who were basically had zero ambition, and would basically squander away all the potential that they had, and that eventually he saw that they were attracting other friends that weren't friends of his, and he said, you know what, I'm not going to hang out with you if you're going to bring these people around that I don't really think they fit what I'm trying to do here. These were people who were basically stoners in the mid 70s in Alberta, and it's not like he was trying to draw a distinction between people who, there's people who say, oh, you should never, ever, ever give up on your friends or whatever. Well, I mean, that depends. Everybody has that friend who's such an idiot, has such a lack of judgment, and doesn't consider anything that you're doing, that they're basically toxic to be around. And that's what he was talking about. So yeah, maybe the chapter was way too long. But if you make a statement like that, people might be asking, why would you make such a statement? So he uses a personal experience. He also uses basically, he draws on experiences from clients that he's talked to. Obviously, he can't reveal client information because of confidentiality. But that's what happens. That's why a person who's a clinical psychologist would be able to publish a book like that. And you don't have to agree with Jordan Peterson, but to call him a charlatan out of hand just because he published a book that you call hokey advice or something, or all sorts of Taoist. What was the word that he used? I think it was a guy. Combining hokey self-bromides with cosmic explanations drawn from Babylonian myths or from Darwinian biology. I thought, first of all, liberalism for many years was basically calling Darwinian biology, the only way to look at the world in terms of where the species propagated. So what do you want him to do as a practicing psychologist? Do you want him to draw exclusively off of the Bible, which he does use the Bible for, to illustrate certain points? I mean, you have to pick one. And in his case, he's not somebody who's coming from the standpoint of being, a theologist or basically one of these creationists. He's saying, we use the Bible for this model of this type of behavior you want to talk about, and then then he draws on evolutionary biology. He's not really a Christian theologist if you think about it, but they don't want to listen. They want to basically paint him as the worst thing ever. Like he's basically like the Ray Lewis of psychology, starting to echo. That dude needs to keep Jordan's name out of his mouth. Like I said, you can go and criticize Jordan Peterson, but what he did there wasn't to actually criticize him. He was to defame him as a charlatan. And there's nothing more insecure than the New York Times picking an anonymous writer. And I didn't read this article before I went and started this live stream. They basically picked some anonymous writer from Brooklyn in order to write a piece like condemning another writer, a published author who sold 1 million books, and they admitted in the article that the New York Times refused to put on their bestseller list. How insecure is that? That's projection there. Okay, so enough about that one. It's in the description. Once again, what other? There's nothing else important happening here. So you know that Mark Sanford lost. Another thing from the New York Times, it says, it sure looks, this is from Nicholas Kristof, another guy who every day thinks that he knows how to run the country better. Yeah, he works for a newspaper that was bought out by the richest person in Mexico, Carlos Slim. So if you're so smart at what you do, then how come you didn't figure out all these years ago how to rise to the top of a newspaper like the New York Times, Nicholas Kristof? Maybe you're getting outfoxed day to day, right? I mean, you're still just an opinion columnist for a newspaper that's owned by the richest person in Mexico. No offense to Carlos Slim. It sure looks as if President Trump was hoodwinked in Singapore. Trump made a huge concession, the suspension of military exercises with South Korea. Well, how is that a concession? You can just, so military exercises, for those of you that don't know, can be executed, on a yearly basis, on a bi-yearly basis, seasonally. I don't know how, like if it's naval exercises, it might matter what season it is. And obviously the winter in North Korea is shitty. So if things don't work out in the next couple months, you could just do the military exercises in August, in September. It's not like you stop having an army there. I mean, what gives? That's on top of the broader concession of the summit meeting itself, security guarantees he gave North Korea, and the legitimacy that the summit provides his counterpart, Kim Jong-un, within North Korea. The very special bond that Trump claimed to have formed with Kim will be portrayed this way. Kim forced the American president, through his nuclear and missile tests, to accept North Korea as a nuclear equal, to provide security guarantees to North Korea, and to cancel war games with South Korea that the North has protested for decades. In exchange for these concessions, Trump seems to have won astonishingly little. In a joint statement, Kim merely reaffirmed the same commitment to denuclearization of the Korean Peninsula that North Korea has repeatedly made since 1992. They are willing to denuke, Trump quoted at his news conference after his meetings with Kim. Trump seems to believe that he had achieved some remarkable agreement, but the concessions were all his own. The most remarkable aspect of the joint agreement was what it didn't contain. There was nothing about North Korea freezing plutonium and uranium programs, nothing about destroying intercontinental ballistic missiles, nothing about allowing inspectors to return to nuclear sites, nothing about North Korea making a full declaration of its nuclear program, nothing about a timetable, nothing about verification, not even any clear pledge to permanently halt testing of nuclear weapons or long-range missiles. Kim seems to have completely out-negotiated Trump, and it's scary that Trump doesn't seem to realize this. For now, Trump has much less to show than past negotiators who hammered out deals with North Korea, like the 1994 agreed framework, which completely froze the country's plutonium program with a rigorous monitoring system. Trump made a big deal in his news conference about recovering the remains of American soldiers from the Korean War, but this is nothing new. Back in 1989, on my first trip to North Korea, well, if you went to North Korea, why didn't you solve it back then, Nicholas Kristof? Officials there made this is in I don't know where Pink Pony's watching from, but obviously, Pinochet is from Washington State. This is Monday morning quarterback on steroids and amphetamines. What this person's doing here. You're doing the knock jokes here again. Okay, I get it. Officials there made similar pledges about returning remains, and indeed North Korea has returned some remains over the year. It's not clear how many more remain. Trump claimed an excellent relationship with Kim, and it certainly is better for the two leaders to be exchanging compliments rather than missiles. In a sense, Trump has eased the tensions that he himself created when he threatened last fall to totally destroy North Korea. I'm just not sure a leader should get credit for diffusing a crisis that he himself created. There's still plenty we don't know and lots of uncertainty about the future, but for now, the bottom line is that there is no indication that North Korea is prepared to give up its nuclear weapons, and Trump didn't achieve anything remotely as good as an Iran nuclear deal, which led Iran to eliminate 98% of its... So here, again, cheerleading the Iran nuclear deal, a deal that then eliminated 98% of its enriched uranium. When? There's also something frankly weird about an American president savaging Canada's prime minister one day and then embracing the leader of the most totalitarian country in the world. He's a very talented man, Trump said of Kim. I also learned that he loves his country very much. In an interview with Voice of America, Trump said, I like him. And, I mean, how many fucking paragraphs does he have to talk about this? So, I will say this, okay? Let me see if he even mentions this. We don't have time to talk about every single fucking retarded thing that the New York Times talks about. So you can see here, word search, he doesn't mention the word hostages. Trump did not start the tensions with North Korea. North Korea was testing hydrogen bombs because they'd fucking developed them under Obama and under Bush and under Clinton. What the hell is this idiot talking about? He's bragging about the 1994 agreement. Okay, and you know what? If that agreement worked, then we wouldn't even be having this conversation now. That 1994 agreement happened under Bill Clinton. And obviously, North Korea still was able to develop thermonuclear weapons. And that's how we've gotten to this point today. The other thing is they don't he doesn't mention at all the issue of the hostages. He doesn't mention the fact that North Korea wasn't just threatening the United States under Trump. They were threatening the United States under Obama as well, and they were threatening Japan, and they were threatening South Korea, obviously. And he's behaving as if this is a crisis manufactured just in the past 2 years. Well, if it just happened in the past 2 years, then how the hell was there an agreement back in 1994 to prevent them from getting nuclear weapons? This is what a charlatan is. It's somebody who pretends that they understand the whole problem, and they present it in a way that basically fulfills all of the parameters that keep it favorable to them. Okay? It's not as if we can blame President Clinton 100% for everything that happened with North Korea when he was president. I can understand how, he was the first post-Cold War president. He didn't want to get into a war with North Korea. So I can understand. It might be that he did the wrong thing, President Clinton. But you can understand why he didn't want to get into a war with North Korea in 1994, and then he kept dealing with them over the next few years. You could put yourself in that mindset. And then next person is Bush, who again, didn't do anything important to curtail North Korea. He was basically just wagging his finger and saying, you better not get those nukes. I'm gonna give you some faith-based ass whooping if you get your hands on any of those nukes. Then didn't do shit about it. And then President Obama, obviously, under him, they actually did get nuclear weapons. Let's see if you guys have anything else. Pinochet says the South was the one who put war games on the table, and when did Trump say we're equal? He was worried about the South. What's the journalist's name again? He's got some happy tweets coming his way. That would be Nicholas Kristof. That's here. I'll show you his name. Nicholas Kristof over here. And you know what? Another thing another good point that Pinochet brings up. Bold is like, oops, I meant to delete that because I don't have anything good to add. I don't know what you mean. Pinochet says the 94 agreement was with Kim Jong-il. Yeah, but the issue here is that Kristof is claiming that the 1994 agreement was a better agreement. Well, if it was a better agreement, then it obviously would have solved the problem, and it didn't. What a great Bush impression. I know that's sarcastic. I don't do a good George Bush. I did try to do I have tried to impersonate certain people. My Midwest accent kind of fucks it with everything. I don't even speak foreign languages well, the ones that I do know. What I was about to say? So Pinochet brings up a good point. This isn't just about what the United States needs to get out of this. The reality is, and people know this is not something that, people are complaining about how we treat our Canadian allies. With all due respect, I mean, we're not dealing with an actual hot war with Canada. We're dealing with a trade issue with them. With South Korea, they have a priority to not get into a massive war that will ruin all the progress they've made. South Korea has become probably one of the top tier of developed nations in the world now. And why would they want to squander all of that and get into a war with their northern neighbor? I mean, they've always been conscious of the danger of having to do it. But obviously they would rather do without it. So the North will rise again. So yeah, they're willing to forgo those military exercises. They're willing to, the South Korea is willing to fight as much as it can in order to, get the result that it wants, which is, to lower tensions with the North Koreans, possibly, lead the way to reunification. Also, Japan does not want a war with North Korea. Nobody wants a war with North Korea when, Japan hasn't been at war since the 40s, since they were nuked, basically. They're not trying to get nuked again. So I don't know what Nicholas Kristof is trying to prove here. Is he trying to prove that the United States is basically, that, our obligation is to fuck North Korea all the way, as to get as much of as we can out of it, no matter how much it bends Japan and South Korea out of shape? Because if that's his goal, then I don't think he really is a strategic thinker. I think he's pretty much an idiot. And that's the type of person that the New York Times employs. Pinochet says, well, then how dare Bill Clinton legitimize the North Korean regime? I'm disgusted. Well, the other thing is, you hear this from conservatives too, with Ben Shapiro leading the way, claiming, oh, it's a disgrace for Trump to dignify North Korea with a meeting, with an official state meeting with Kim Jong-un. Well, if that's the case, the fact is, I think I heard it on the radio earlier today. Franklin Roosevelt met with Stalin. You don't have to be happy about it, but that's life. He also met with Chiang Kai-shek, another brutal dictator. How many other examples? There was Nixon in China with Mao. There was Nixon in Russia with Brezhnev. You had Reagan when he met with Gorbachev. People didn't know that Gorbachev was a reformer at the time. People had no clue. I mean, how many examples do you need? Obama went to Cuba, met with what's his name, with Raul Castro. Yeah, so Shapiro was criticizing him at the time because he was opening the gate to a dictator of a country that in exchange for literally nothing. That's what we gave. We gave Cuba basically what they wanted: diplomatic relations and possibly I don't know if they did end the embargo, but I think that it's partially over. I think you're actually allowed to travel to Cuba now. Somebody tell me in the chat if it's true, if you can or not. Canada's bigger and we're on top. If we were in prison, America would be our bitch. Ben Shapiro looks like a young boy. No punchline. He just looks like a young boy. John Podesta must be all over him. Yeah, Ben Shapiro, I think, is really getting, he's getting a big head nowadays. He's not realizing that, yeah, you have some smart opinions about various topics, but you're not the voice of America's conscience, and people are getting tired of it. What's this? Okay. Just checking my updates, guys. We have our June here. Welcome, buddy. So, yeah, I don't think it was Outfox that's in Singapore. I don't think that this guy, these are people, they're claiming things that they're speculating on things we would never have dreamed of even happening. Last year, they were complaining, they were saying, oh, Trump is actually going to get us nuked. We're going to get World War III because of him. And now they're complaining due to the exact opposite reason. So, decide. It's either one or the other. Either you want a nuclear war or you don't. Okay, then there's Dennis Rodman. Let's play some of this video. It's a pretty long video, but we'll play some of it.
Of Dennis Rodman. We have him joining us on the show. He made his way to Singapore. There he is right now. Good to see you again, my friend. Dennis, can you hear me?
I'm tired. How you doing, guys?
It's good. Do you have, what does your hat say?
What's my hat say?
Oh, good. Now I can see it.
Let's
so you
make
have
America great again.
All right.
You got it right there? You got it?
I got it. Thank you. So
That's not the full video. Hold on. Here it is.
Of Dennis Rodman. We have him joining us on the show. He made his way to Singapore. There he is right now. Good to see you again, my friend. Dennis, can you hear me?
I'm tired. How you doing, guys?
It's good. Do you have, what?
So first thing here, you can notice on his shirt it has potcoin.com. So he was shilling for the entire purpose. People don't understand. Some people do understand. CNN got punked. because Dennis Rodman was I mean, I guess to a certain extent he was there for the North Korea thing, but he actually didn't participate. He was there in order to promote potcoin.com, which is, I think, some sort of weed-based cryptocurrency or something. Which if it's true that that's the only reason he was there, then good for them because they got some very easy advertisement from that.
What does your hat say?
What's my hat say?
Oh, good. Now I can see it.
Let's make America great again.
All right.
You got it right there? You got it?
I got it. Thank you. So you made your way to Singapore. How important is this to you? You talked a lot about the prospects for peace when we spoke several years ago. Did you think this moment would ever come?
Well, in my heart and soul, when I first went to North Korea, I was very honored to even be selected to go there. And once I went to North Korea, I was didn't really understand what the old situation was as far as being over there. And when I first met Kim Jong-un, I was more like, I didn't know what to expect. You know, I didn't know who he was. I didn't know what he represented. I didn't know if he was someone important. But I knew something was going on. But once I got familiar with the culture and the situation over there, I got really used to being there. I felt like I was at home.
Now, you know both men. You've spent time with the North Korean leader. You've spent time with Donald Trump. How do you think the two men size up in terms of how they might get along?
Well, I think the fact that Donald Trump would understand the fact that the people of North Korea have a heart, they have soul, charisma, and they love each other. And I think the fact that Kim Jong-un and his family understands that. I think that President Trump should understand the fact that the reason why the Marshal of North Korea respects Dennis Rodman, the fact that he trusts me. And I gave him something for his birthday, and I thought I couldn't pull this off. And I said to him on the day before his birthday, I said, I'm going to give you a present. And he said, what is that? I said, I'm going to bring a basketball team, professional basketball team to you. He said, can you do that? I said, yes, I can. Even though I knew I couldn't do it, I said, if I fail now, it's going to be a problem. So basically, I got a lot of people together. I got Popcorn here, helped me out, my sponsor. Thanks to those guys. And
he actually said Potcoin, the sponsor, and you know this is truly CNN getting punked all the way.
It happened, and Kim Jong-un came to me and said, Dennis, you know what? This is the first time someone's ever kept their word to me and my country. And I looked at him, I always got emotional, but I said, wait a minute, hold on. He said, someone's never kept their word to you and your country? He said, yes, this is the first time someone's ever suggested that. And I came through, and I think that he really appreciated that, the fact that he's not normally hearing someone that's trustworthy. And I think that country is normally hearing people that's always lying, deceitful, and not trustworthy. And I think that if Trump goes in there with a great heart, with his heart on the table, and let Kim Jong-un see him, really emotional as far as like speaking to him. It ain't got to be about war. It ain't got to be about hatred or what happened in the future or in the past. The past. We'll move on to the future. And I've told people about Kim Jong-un. He's all about the 21st century. He's trying to progress his country. And Donald Trump is going to do a great job is try to reach out and make sure that our hands, Americans, our hands are always open, because as Americans, we have let so many people around the world join us to be happy in one country, that's the United States. And now we have really put ourselves on a line to reach out to North Korea. And they've been so gracious to me, my family, and the United States. So let's make this happen. If Trump could pull this off, more power to him.
Dennis, did Kim reach out to you, or any of his people reach out to you? The president's people, anybody reach out to you for insight into the other side?
Well, you know what? I've talked to those guys the last 5 years.
Which guys?
And I talked to Kim Jong-un and an administration over there 5 years ago. And he asked me 5 years ago, we sat down for lunch. And he sat down and asked me, hey, Dennis, I would like to ask you three things. If you go back to tell the President of the United States these three things, and I would be willing to talk to him. And this is a true story, and I got my people here that was there that heard the conversation. He said things like, if they can move the ships back from South Korea, I would do what I have to do to listen. If you can move certain things or do certain things, I will listen. My ears will be open. And I tried to do that to Obama. And Obama didn't even give me the time of day. I asked him, I said, I have something to say from North Korea. He just brushed me off. But that didn't deter me. I still kept going back. I kept going back. I kept going back. I showed my loyalty and my trustworthy to this country. And I said to everybody, I said, the door will open.
I remember you saying it. I remember you saying it. Let me ask you something. Does Kim understand English, Dennis?
It was amazing. It's amazing. It's amazing. When I said those things, when I said those damn things, when I went back home, I got so many death threats. I got so many death threats when I was sitting there protecting everything. And I believed in North Korea. And when I went home, I couldn't even go home. I couldn't even go home. I had to hide out for 30 days. I couldn't even go home. But I kept my head up high, brother. I knew things were going to change. I knew it. I was the only one. I never had no one to hear me. I didn't know one had to see me. But I took those bullets. I took all that. I took everything. Everyone came at me, and I'm still standing. And today is a great day for everybody. Singapore, Tokyo, China, everything. It's a great day.
It is a great day. This is a historic day.
I'm so happy.
You were saying to me years ago that you thought this would happen. And I want to let you be ready for me to ask you another question. I know you're very emotional about this.
Go ahead.
This is what I want to know. I want to know, well, you're an emotional guy. You feel very deeply about things. People who've been around you understand that.
Right.
Why did you feel so strongly that you needed to make something happen for North Korea? There's so many places you could have gone in the world that have, a much easier path to peace than North Korea, given the record of human rights abuses and other practices of this despotic regime. But you chose North Korea. Why?
Well, I feel like, I said, I was very naive when I went over there. I didn't understand and expect all the things I was getting when I went over there. They said, do you realize what you was doing, Dennis, when you went over there? I said, no. I thought it was just another one of those things. I was just doing some charity event. I knew nothing about North Korea. I just thought I was going to play basketball and just treat the people and be happy, and that was it. But it turned out to be so much more bigger than what I thought. And I felt the fact that, just listen to the people, seeing the kids, seeing the people there, and just meeting the regime, Kim Jong-un, and the whole marshals and everybody. I just felt like I just fell in love with the country from day one. And I felt like that, I guess I owe it to myself, and the people around the world. You know what? I'm not in here. I'm not in this for no money. I never started it for no money. This is not about Dennis Rob being the greatest person in the world to lead these two people together. It has nothing to do with that. I just wanted to see it get done so we all can live good together.
Well, here's the first
hatred,
day.
No more hatred.
Here's the first day. Let's see where it goes. Let me ask you something. You talk about speaking with Kim Jong-un. Does he understand or speak English?
And one thing about him, though, I always said about him, he's more like a big kid, even though he's small. He's more like a big kid, but he loves to have a good time. And I was saying last night or this morning that he was going around taking selfies and stuff like that. And I was saying that this guy wants to be around the world. He wants to come to America. He wants to enjoy his life. He wants his people to enjoy his life. But I think that the fact that he doesn't have the tools, and maybe the politics of this whole meeting is just going to happen. I think this is going to change a lot. And I hope the fact that President Trump can understand, knowing that Kim is trying to reach out and trying to get into the 21st century.
That's the big question. I want to ask you about that in a second, but let me just get an answer to this. Do you think he speaks or understands English?
This is kind of strange. I don't know why it matters at this point whether he speaks English, because, I remember when Jacques Chirac came to the U.S. before the Iraq War, and he would pretend he doesn't speak English, but he did. But he would have this French interpreter talking and whatever, and the whole thing was like he was pretending that he doesn't speak English, so he was speaking French as if the French language actually matters. Meanwhile, in France nowadays because of people like Jacques Chirac. I mean, it's more important to know Arabic or one of those sub-Saharan languages because French people are actually like running for their lives because of immigration.
Well, I think he understands bits and pieces. If you talk about basketball, yes, he understands that.
So you think it's about what he wants to talk about? Do you think he's studied English?
I can say one thing. I think people know that Kim Jong-un is not a dumb man. I think he's understanding from his grandfather and his father. I think that he's trying to protect his people. He's trying to protect his honor and his and everything that has to do with his country. But like I say, that's respect. That's respect. Nothing's going to happen overnight. It's going to take time.
100%.
If Kim Jong-un and Donald Trump understand that, if they understand the fact that if we just sit there and have a smooth, a comfortable relationship, smile, laugh, joke a little bit, okay, great. It ain't got to be war. It's got to be something that everyone can be comfortable about.
Right.
And I know this meeting is going to be a great meeting.
Well, that's the hope, Dennis. We'll see where it goes. It had a good start. They did the handshake. There was good body language.
That's the hope, Dennis. Hopefully you can help us, basically impeach Trump for like getting blowjobs from Stormy Daniels or something, right? I mean, they'll probably be contacting him later. They'll be like, hey, you kind of bent us out of shape there. We were really trying to go for something else. Like we were trying to give you a little more credit and to, shit on Trump a little more. And, they'll try to offer him some sort of gig or something. But, I mean, do you guys want to watch the rest of the clip or you want to move on? I'll ask the chat. Because we do have a couple other things. What's Mensch mean? Mensch is actually a German word for a good person. German and Yiddish. Be a Mensch means to be like a nice person or something. It's kind of an annoying thing. Pink Pony says, I love me some good body language. Oh. Is that supposed to be like a wanking? This guy, man. Where'd he come from? All right, we'll just keep playing the video.
They said the right things. It's all perfunctory at this part. It's at the opening ceremony, and we'll see what happens when we start getting reports about the actual policy negotiations. But you talk about the Kim Jong-un side and North Korea side. Did you hear from the White House at all today?
Well, yes, I did. But, and the good thing about it, yes, Donald Trump reached out. He called his secretary, and she called me and said, Dennis, Donald Trump is so proud of you. He thanks you a lot. And that means a lot. Because after all these years, the fact that I somewhat has something to do with this North Korean situation, but I don't want to take any credit where credit is due. I think we all need to take credit. And I'm just here. I'm just so thankful to be here. I'm glad the fact that this is happening. The world saw it. I saw it. My kids saw it. So you know what? It's just hope for the best. We don't need a miracle. We don't need a miracle. We just need the doors to be open so we can start fresh and make this a better place in the world, baby. That's it.
Well, look, sometimes it does take a miracle. I mean, you're dealing with some really tough things on the table here. I know that you've had good experiences with the leader of North Korea, and this is a nice moment. I'm not looking to get into it with you again, but now things you didn't know then. There's a lot of violence.
Right.
There's a lot of negativity, and it all stems from your friend, the ruler of North Korea. This man isn't all selfies and smiles. He's responsible for the deaths and hardship of a lot of people. How can you be sure he wants something better than what he is right now?
Well, as we know, Chris, the fact that, I'm not a politician. I'm not sitting there trying to fight the fact that, I'm on his side 24/7. I'm not doing everything right to say the right things to make him look like a better man, a better person. I've never been like that. I've always been like down the middle. Here it is, he's a good friend to me. That's what I look at. I don't see the politics of this whole situation. I don't want to see that. I want to see that to go away. I want us to see us get along, to have a handshake, to have a smile, have a glass of iced tea. Just talk to each other friendly. I don't need to worry about the war stuff and all the stuff that's going on. I don't know anything about that. I just want to do one thing, bring force to North Korea and try to bring that connection with us to North Korea. That's it, sports. Everything else should be Donald Trump's hands and people in the White House hands. I'm out of it. I'm just so happy just to be here, man, and just see everyone in the world get emotional like I did, cry to see it really, really happen. And Donald Trump should take a lot of credit for this because he went out the box and made this happen. So anyway,
So he's hyping for Potcoin and for Donald Trump. And he's done an amazing job because basically Chris Cuomo, I mean, this is actually, he would love for there to be some sort of bad story going on in Singapore to distract from the fact that his brother is like one of the most hated people in New York State. He's Governor Andrew Cuomo, who's basically running around telling people, oh, I don't want to take your guns, but I have the SAFE Act, which basically means that legal gun owners automatically became criminals overnight for whatever reason back in 2012. But by the way, I mean, we didn't actually solve anything. Nothing happened. The state isn't actually safer, but people are more afraid to buy weapons. Yeah, that's Chris Cuomo's agenda.
so I want to say one more.
Chris Cuomo would probably, it would be a good career proposition for him to quit CNN now and go work for potcoin.com and, do photo bombs of CNN broadcasts, just, follow around Don Lemon. And when the camera starts rolling, be like, hey, potcoin.com, motherfuckers. I don't even know anything about potcoin.com. You people probably think I'm shilling for them right now, too. I just think it's hilarious that they basically got free advertisement out of this.
One more thing before I leave. Can I say one more thing?
You can say whatever you want. Go ahead.
Okay, so can I thank some people, though, while I'm here? Can I thank some people?
Yeah, go ahead. But
I'd like to thank potcoin.com for the best photobomb job of the year.
let me ask you something. Don't go on a whole tour about it, but I want to ask you something else. But thank somebody if you want to thank them. Go ahead, Dennis.
All right, so, I just say thank, all the good people that's really stood by me, Darren Prince, Vo, all the guys that went with me, North Korea. I'm thinking Chuck Daly, I'm thinking Phil Jackson, I'm thinking Jeannie Buss, I'm thinking, Pete Giannopoulos, I'm thinking Eddie Vedder, the Pro Jam, everybody that supported me through all these things. So, I'm thinking my kids, they still with me after all these years, all the things I've done up and down, they still with me. I just want to thank everybody, man. And plus, you know what, I'm thinking these guys at Popcorn that supported me through this whole venture.
I got you. We see the shirt there. You got a good outfit. You got Trump on the top. You got Potcoin on the bottom. Let me ask you one more thing.
He worked it back in again. I think I missed it. Hold on.
Really stood by me, Darren Prince, Vo, all the guys that went with me, North Korea. I'm thinking Chuck Daly, I'm thinking Phil Jackson, I'm thinking Jeannie Buss, I'm thinking, Pete Giannopoulos, I'm thinking Eddie Vedder, the Pro Jam, everybody that supported me through all these things. So, I'm thinking my kids, they still with me after all these years, all the things I've done up and down, they still with me. I just want to thank everybody, man. And plus, you know what, I'm thinking these guys at Popcorn that supported me through this whole venture.
I got you. We see the shirt there. You got a good outfit. You got Trump on the top. You got Potcoin on the bottom. Let me ask you one more thing. Do you think there's any chance that you might have a role in this process? Has anybody reached out to you or given you reason to believe that whether it's the North Koreans or it's the Americans, that they may reach out to you as some type of resource here, something that is part of this mix going forward?
Well, you know what? Like I said, that's not my job. I wish that the fact that people would quit putting me in that title role, the fact that I should be involved with this whole politics stuff. I just want to be involved with the sports aspect. And if they can use me in that direction, maybe I can have some type of common sense to shine some light on what's really going on in North Korea. If Trump want to come ask me about certain things, he'll probably figure it out today, and I hope he does. But if he want to ask me one-on-one, I'm willing to do it. So, like I said, I know a lot of things, but like I said, this is Trump and Kim Jong-un's day. This is the world's day. It's not my day. I just came here because I wanted to see face-to-face in my own eyes. So,
for potcoin.com.
Thank you guys for having me on in the world. Thank you guys. I'm going to do more important things down the road. Please.
Well, Dennis.
Step behind me. Be behind me.
Dennis, it is good to see you. I'm glad you are well. I know that you're on your own journey. Stay healthy. Right. Stay happy, and
Right.
please let us know what you find out
Got
about
you.
this process. It's good to see you, Dennis Rodman, in Singapore. Thank you.
All right, thank you, brother.
All right.
All right, brother.
Jim Clapper, we're looking at the moments
All right, here's the fakest moment of the day.
earlier. It is bizarre, to say the least, but here I am next to the Director of National Intelligence, former director for the government, and Dennis Rodman, also known as the Worm for how he played basketball. He is our best resource at this point right now for understanding the minds of the two men,
It's the creature from the Goonies.
especially Kim Jong-un.
I agree, Chris, and I tell you,
As weird as that is,
as weird as it
to
is,
say,
and
they made a movie about that.
This whole
and
thing,
this is still weird.
This whole thing is unconventional, and believe me, I saw Dennis Rodman I'd never seen before in the course of that interview, and you drew that out of him. There's a lot more depth there than I think meets the eye. And he does understand Kim Jong-un, and all of the rest of us pundits who are kind of amateurs and haven't had that direct contact like he has.
Yeah, that was a bunch of bullshit. That was retarded. James Clapper. The blind sheik. She closes her eyes and tries to guess who's up to bat. The Houdini. Do your girl in front of a window. Your buddy trades out with you. You walk in the front of the window from outside and wave. Yeah, I've heard of that one. Yeah, that's a funny one. You have to be a very secure individual with the ability to Houdini. I'm gonna have to hide the chat. The new thing, MSNBC mom. This was also in the Times. The Times actually posted it. It might as well. I mean, to be fair, I hate MSNBC. They might as well have called it New York Times mom as well. There's a life with an MSNBC mom, a liberal woman whose retirement years coincide with the rise of Donald Trump, and who seeks solace, companionship, and righteous indignation in cable news, not pictured my father, a Republican turned independent, absorbed in his iPad, pretending to be out of earshot. MSNBC is not my mom's only news source, nor her only act of political engagement, but if sheer hours spent watching MSNBC index a certain strain of liberal occupation, they are at an all-time high, and not just in our house. And then she says, what I learned from my MSNBC mom's friends, and my friends' MSNBC moms, is that cable news can play a symbiotic role with social media and straight news. MSNBC makes an authoritative narrative out of reports, takes and jokes that feel fragmented on Twitter. It is a safe space to complicate issues viewers feel they can't bring up in mixed company. I feel like Mark Dice here. Send this article to Mark Dice. Send it. Especially when mixed company like to post about Spygate on Facebook. An evening with Ari, Chris, the other Chris, and Rachel isn't just about licking the wounds of 2016. It shores up a progressive bona fides called into question by both sidesism and liberal hand-wringing. No, this is retarded. Those of you that don't know, I did expose some, thanks also to Adrian as well, although in a different way. But I did expose a fake story that was on, Rachel Maddow's show. So Adrian Lloyd, who's Just My Stupid Opinion, did have a participation in that story, which is that we did expose that Rachel Maddow, in fact, slandered actual progressives in order to push this whole Russia bullshit. So they're trying to make... By the way, Ari Melber as well. I haven't gone over that clip because it just isn't that interesting. But, maybe we will do it one day. An evening with Ari, Chris, Matthews, the fat ass, the pale wonder, and then Chris Hayes, who ran away from an interview with Larry Elder, of all people, and Rachel Maddow, isn't just about licking the wounds of 2016. Yeah, it's about basically proving that you don't have actual intellectual honesty. MSNBC's popularity mirrors the rise of the conservative media, said Sarah Soberaj, a Tufts University sociologist and author of The Outrage Industry. For the past 20 years, right-wing talk radio and Fox News have assured conservatives who felt their way of life was threatened that their politics didn't make them bad people, and did little to address their suspicions that women, people of color, and immigrants, as opposed to, say, outsourcing and wage stagnation, were to blame. Today, it's liberals who feel that their way of life is under siege. Professor Soberaj told me, because a president who was elected for views his conservative peers have been shamed into suppressing. For liberals, watching beliefs they find abhorrent, be applauded, voted, and institutionalized is unnerving, upsetting, and probably confusing, she said. Consuming liberal media, whether it's MSNBC, Pod Save America, which, by the way, is run by ex-Obama officials, or John Oliver, is like going to political church. You listen to someone say the things you feel in a more powerful, dramatic way. Professor Soberaj says, my MSNBC mom, Maggie Stoffel, isn't new to, this is going to sound harsh. I am happy my mom isn't alive to see this ridiculous idiocy. Although I wish she was alive, period, but, that's besides the point. But I'm glad she's not alive to see this, because she would have probably, stopped watching TV altogether, which wouldn't have been the worst thing. As a stay-at-home parent, she followed Katie Couric from her reporting on the Gulf War to the tamer waters of anchoring today, and after September 11th, ditched Martha and Oprah for CNN. After going back to work, she woke up to Morning Joe and kept up with Twitter throughout the day. Now retired, she can tune into an entire lineup covering the Trump White House downfall miniseries, as she wishfully put it. Before I could formally interview her about MSNBC, my mom put her thoughts in a 700-word email organized by Anchor. The longest section was about Nicole Wallace. I think she's a superstar, she wrote. She's a Republican, so watching her show, I feel no one could accuse me of hanging out in my liberal media echo chamber. Yeah, let Nicole Wallace, as if anybody gives two shits about what she says. To be honest with you, I didn't even know much about Nicole Wallace. And she went on to describe how Ms. Wallace makes her viewers feel that they're in her inner circle, chatting with really smart friends. I felt a pang of jealousy. Wasn't I an adequately delightful moderator of family political debates? But then, most of the time, I'm not there. I'm safely ensconced in my... So, this is the real picture of why modern progressive or liberal people are completely deluded. And that's coming to some of the new, some of the later topics we're going to cover. By the way, there's probably going to be another 20 minutes in this bitch. So, just buckle up, idiots. Ms. Wallace makes her viewers feel that they're in her inner circle, chatting with really smart friends. I felt a pang of jealousy. Wasn't I an adequately delightful moderator of family political debates? But then, most of the time, I'm not there. I'm safely ensconced in my digitally tethered Brooklyn progressive bubble, whereas my mom, living in the swing state of Pennsylvania, with neighbors she actually knows, has to tread lightly. This is so basically, she's complaining because she decided to leave the Pennsylvania, which I honestly am not very fond of that state, but Pennsylvania. The good thing about it is it's not New Jersey, so there's a compliment. But they are a more normal place than Brooklyn, so she forsook her actual roots in Pennsylvania and moved over to Brooklyn, where she's with the rest of the progressive idiots, that have ruined Brooklyn, by the way. This is what I gleaned from her friend Sally Duffy. And by the way, these are the same people who gentrified Brooklyn that are blaming gentrification for ruining it. This is what I gleaned from her friend Sally Duffy in Wisconsin, whom I caught having her ritual 5 p.m. glass of wine with Ari Melber. Of course, he doesn't know we're having wine, she said. Miss Duffy never watched cable news before Mr. Trump was elected, but she has also become wary of bringing up politics among friends and family. Living where Milwaukee blue turns to suburban red, she said, I don't have many people to talk to, and I need reassurance I wasn't alone in this. Oh, my God. She likes Mr. Melber for his legal expertise, his rap references, and his reluctance to shout. She follows his show with Chris Hayes, and then she might watch Rachel Maddow unless her husband is home. Miss Duffy hasn't converted him to MSNBC, she said. But she has drawn him into the drama of seeing which Louise Mensch tweets turn out to be true. Yeah, Louise Mensch is pretty much the equivalent of, I won't even call her Joseph McCarthy, because Joseph McCarthy actually did find real communists. Louise Mensch, if you mention that you like Smirnoff vodka, she believes that you're essentially working for the Kremlin and that you have a constant line of communication with them. The network star and all-in host Chris Hayes is feeling the MSNBC mom love at book events where parent-child pairs and mother-daughter pairs in particular line up for a photo or book signing. A lot of times it's the mom who got really into the show and talked it up to her daughter, he said. Mr. Hayes, so she's actually talking to Chris Hayes about all of the fangirl, these suppressed housewives and people who went to Smith College for Women, and he's basically bragging to her about it. Mr. Hayes said his viewers' connection to him has become intense and visceral since Mr. Trump's election, probably because they can feel that he's just trying to figure it out too. It's all pretty bewildering to me, he said. By the way, Chris Hayes also published a book like not long ago claiming that America is like a racist and irredeemable place. And I think he was writing it before Trump even got elected. Growing audiences offer some relief from ratings pressure, Mr. Hayes said, but they are counterbalanced by the pressure to get things right. It feels easier to screw up in this era, he said, and those mistakes feel more costly for everyone. The most powerful person in the country, and arguably the world, is a person whose manifestly does not care about getting it right, and because of that has an insidious power to drag other people down to his level. What does it mean these days to get things right? I talked about this with another MSNBC. So it just goes on and on and on. It's the same. They're talking. They're basically, look at this graphic. I mean, it's just these pathetic women, pathetic yenta bitches. Yenta is a Yiddish word for gumare, as they say in Italian, which is basically, an old chatty woman, can't shut the fuck up, thinks that she knows the answers, has never solved a problem in her life. That's the MSNBC mom, and apparently there's like a whole community of these people. Not liberal, just progressive. Bold. Remember, the guy Louis Laval has a problem with using the word liberal too, and I think he has a point with that. MSLSD. Let me see here. What are you guys saying? You're distracting, bold. Okay. Sneaky facial. You spit on her back so she thinks you are done. When she turns around, you blow it in her face. Oh! It's a nice one. Some tasty ones. The loosey-goosey, you fist her while she makes your dick's ducks. Oh. Ben Shapiro does the best Chris Hayes impression, hands down. I'll have to check that out. Just my stupid opinion. Okay, I don't know what conversation. Okay, I see here. I find Oprah unbearable. In your opinion, was the worst news outlet out there? Pinochet says TYT. Number 2, Mike. Just my stupid opinion says in Canada, CTV. In America, Washington Post. TYT is a good one. News personality I hate the most, Jimmy Dore. I wouldn't say Jimmy Dore is the one I hate the most. I would say the one I hate the most is obviously Abby Martin, and the news outlet I hate the most is Rolling Stone. So there you go. So we're into the home stretch. By the way, if you haven't voted yet, so far it's 2 votes that I'm too dumb to understand 12 rules for life. But you can still vote if you haven't voted yet, and I know that only 2 of you have voted, so how many Dems agree with Bill Maher's recession wish? And he said, I did have the video earlier, but it says anyway, over the weekend, HBO talk show host Bill Maher spoke the words out loud. The writer was listening to Pink Pony. I feel that like the bottom half has to fall, like the bomb has to fall out at some point, he said, talking about the booming economy. And by the way, I'm hoping for it because one way that you get rid of Trump is a crashing economy. Sorry if that hurts people, but it's either root for a recession or lose your democracy. Let's leave aside the glaring logical fallacy Maher commits with his false dilemma and ponder what he is saying. Maher would, if he could, throw millions of people into unemployment and poverty, watch as hard-earned savings vanish, wages stagnate, and hopes get crushed. Geez, that might keep Trump from winning re-election. Wow, of course, it's easy for Maher to wish that since he's already made his millions attacking Republicans. But just how many of his fellow Trump-loathing Democrats secretly feel that way? The same way. Reporters love to force Republican politicians to answer for anything outrageous that conservative says. Shouldn't these same reporters, to prove their lack of political bias, press every single Democrat running for office in November to condemn Maher's economic death wish? Now, I saw the clip, and it wasn't really a joke. Again, Pink Pony, good one. This is a keeper. This one, Pink Pony, one of the best trolls we've had. Fully approve. So we have 2 articles left, and this one is one that I wrote for Hard News Network, and we do talk a little about like what Pinochet says, differences between liberalism and conservatism, and the fact of the matter is, I should have had this photo out, but there's an issue when you talk about what a liberal is and what a conservative is, or what a progressive is. Okay, liberalism and conservatism are not as far apart as you might think, because the 2 sides, at least in the English-speaking world, they were formed during the 17th and the 18th and 19th centuries from the Whigs and the Tories in Britain, and the Whigs were a little more close to new businessmen and merchants and things like that, and people that were trying to make their way and get rich. And then the Tories were the ones who they already came from the landed estates, the nobility, dukes and counts and duchesses and whatever, and and some of them were closer to the church, the Anglican Church of the Church of England, and the liberals were more close to the Age of Enlightenment. Explicitly, they were trying to basically promote the age of reason in Britain. Okay, not that the conservatives were anti-intellectual, just that they were more close to religion. As Arnold said, "I'll be back." The square root of 69 is 8 something. Yeah, that Lionel loves saying that. That's a good one. So liberals and conservatives, it doesn't necessarily have to do with an economic agenda. It has to do with an approach to which interests are being advanced in the current government. Those of the more forward-thinking Enlightenment people, or those that are keeping the traditions of the society and the property owners and the church or whatever. And later, a conservative ideology evolved, and one that was eventually there was, of course, economic liberalism, which conservatives have embraced fully. I don't think that it's very common among social conservatives to have people who um, will explicitly reject economic liberalism, but they won't talk about it as economic liberalism. They call it conservatism. It's just not the same thing. Jimso says liberalism has its limits. When you reach a certain point and achieve the liberal agenda, there isn't much of a point, so they need to make themselves feel relevant. Pinochet says in the beginning of the Republic, there was only the one party and encompassed both liberal and conservative values. Yeah, there was the Federalist Party, and then eventually there was an anti-Federalist Party, and then later it developed into something else, which we're not going to get into. But the fact is, what is a progressive? Okay, the reason that we have progressives today that are sometimes labeled as liberals is because of Franklin D. Roosevelt and also Lyndon Johnson. They were the people who mixed the Democratic Party, which does believe in social liberalism, with Keynesian and to some extent Marxist economics. Depends who you talk to, but doing things like the Tennessee Valley Authority and all of these other New Deal projects, and then the Great Society with also there was Social Security, I believe, was started under FDR, and then under Johnson, the Department of Housing and Urban Development. There already was public housing during FDR's time. I think, though, mostly it was at the state level. The Department of Housing really took off under Johnson. So you basically had a whole population of Americans who lived their entire lives, or, in some, I wouldn't say all the people do, but there are a lot of people who live their entire life on public housing. And that is a huge departure from, the liberalism of tradition, classical liberalism, as a lot of people like to make a huge deal out of nowadays. They're like, the most popular thing is, people will say, "Oh, I'm not really a libertarian. I'm more like a classical liberal because I believe in, universal health care or something." Like the comic book guy from The Simpsons, basically. Yeah, I'm a classical liberal. Sargon says it too. I'm nothing against them. I'm just saying that when Lyndon Johnson and President Roosevelt committed to those policies, they were making a huge departure from classical liberalism, because classical liberalism had nothing to do with public housing and issues like that. So, this whole article goes into the entire reason why, and this is, well, not the whole thing. This is part one. You guys know I like to write really long articles, right? Arjun Sinha says there's not much difference between Keynesian and Marxist economics. I exaggerate, of course, but you get the point. I think Keynes kind of made a pretty big step towards Marxism, and I think he was in the 20th century too. He was from Britain, and he was one of these people that was saying, yeah, I mean, you can use taxation and government to solve social issues. Well, I mean, okay, that's kind of a big step towards Marxism. It's not a full step, but it's pretty much an approach vector. Pinochet says Benjamin Franklin answered, "A republic, if you can keep it," when asked what form of government would be given to the new country. So essentially, this article goes through a lot of the whole narrative of what liberals, the quote-unquote liberals, are telling conservatives ahead of the 2018 election. And it's alienating them. And I go through a lot of it, the unhealed wounds of 2016. This video should show, but it isn't. And, the shaming Cornel West. Let's listen to this if you want. I don't think it's that long.
Because I know this is a matter close to your heart. There was an acquittal this week of a police officer, Betty Jo Shelby from Tulsa. She shot Terrence Crutcher, a unarmed black man. She said she feared for her life. And then in South Carolina, Michael Slager shot Walter Scott in the back, running away, and that was a mistrial. And this argument that the cops get away with, I was fearful that they might do something erratic. I thought when you went into the police department, you understood that there was some danger in this job. I don't know where they got this idea that if I fear at all, I am allowed to shoot you. But that seems what's happening. And by the way, Trump is all for it, and Hillary Clinton wouldn't have been. So, as someone who said they were equally awful,
no, I didn't say equally
yes,
awful.
you
I
did.
said one was a disaster, another was a catastrophe.
Exactly my point.
But
How
a
is that
disaster is better than a catastrophe.
Well, that point was lost.
I made that point.
Stop it.
But let's keep the focus where it belongs. The police have yet to go to jail when they end up committing violence and murdering these young black brothers and sisters.
Right.
And the problem is we want a fair trial for them, but there's a chronic racism that's shot through and over again, but it's just not the police. Same is true with Wall Street. No Wall Street executives go to jail either. Rule of law comes down hard on the poor, and the well-to-do get off, or the police get off because they're protecting the property.
But Hillary's first speech was about mass
Hillary gave speeches about all kind of stuff, but it didn't have a whole lot of integrity in it, though, brother.
That's such bullshit.
That's not bullshit at all.
Really?
Look how they treated Bernie Sanders, man. They concerned about the Russians. Look how they treated Bernie Sanders. Bernie would have won if he had a chance. He would have won if he had a chance. Don't defend Hillary. Hillary can't even take responsibility for the fact that she lost the election.
Look what you did to him.
On everybody but her.
But he's so wrong.
Don't trot Hillary out on me now.
He's so wrong.
No.
He's so wrong.
She's better than Trump, but don't lie about the sister.
She's better than Trump. That's all I'm saying. A lot better than Trump in so many ways. And just on this,
that doesn't take too much. That doesn't take too much. Who is it better than Trump?
That's not an answer. It's glib. It's beneath you. For someone who's such a
Do you believe Bill Barr calling anybody else glib? Cornel West, I don't think is glib. I think he's actually, as much as I disagree with him, I think he believes in whatever crap he believes in. And, you have to respect that. But how can Bill Maher call Cornel West glib?
an intellectual. That answer is beneath you.
Let me tell you why it's not. It's precisely because when I asked you, would you vote for Donald Trump over David Duke, you said you wouldn't vote for either one. You're not talking.
Yeah, Hillary is not David Duke.
No, but it's this. If you're talking about Wall Street, if you're talking about militarism, if you're talking about dealing with folk in Honduras,
she's light years better than him about all of them.
All of those issues, Hillary is unacceptable.
No, she is not unacceptable.
She was.
Why are we still arguing the last election? And we got stuff going forward here.
Because they haven't learned the lesson that we need to win the.
So Neil deGrasse Tyson, who's also he's also kind of a joke. I don't know why people think he's the greatest thing ever. You guys hear me now? No sound in your mic. So one person says they can hear me. The other person says they can't. I have the mic on. Okay. So, yeah, Neil deGrasse Tyson asks, a good question for once. He's like, why are we arguing the last election? And it's like Bill Maher's like, shut the fuck up. I'm trying to interrogate Cornel West back into voting for the Democrats. It's like, I thought anybody could vote for whoever the hell they wanted. There were idiots in around. Some people who were not idiots, but because they just honestly they didn't know any better. They voted for that idiot Eggy McMuffin, the independent guy, the guy who was fourth place. He got like 500,000 voters nationwide. The Mormon ex-CIA agent who said, "Oh, I can probably win Utah so that Trump can't win the election, and then, we'll have the House of Representatives decide the election." He got like 25% of the vote. Trump still won Utah. In the rest of the country, you got like 3 or 4 people voting for him.
Next election.
No.
That's why.
No. If you're going to lie, you can.
We're not lying.
If you're going to lie about Hillary,
there's a lesson.
go right ahead.
There's a lesson you're going to need for 2017, which is about making responsible choices.
For 2018?
No, for 2017. Because Bill was talking earlier about how he wanted to see Donald Trump not be president by Christmas, which would be nice. That means Michael Pence becomes vice president, and that is better. And everyone in this room,
exactly,
you do not have to vote for Michael Pence in 2020. You don't have to vote Republican in 2018. But you'd better, if you have any hope, it is that he becomes president as rapidly as possible. And acknowledge.
This is the neocon representing for Trump, because he thinks, Pence. At least you can hope that he'll be a neocon.
And what I would say to you is Hillary Clinton's not exactly my political cup of tea.
Well, I know.
I voted for her as the responsible choice compared to the alternatives I had.
Exactly.
No. This is the high challenging teaching for the audience, and you have to do the same thing for Michael Pence when the time comes.
I could not agree more. Michael Pence is well within the parameters of awful that we have come to see as the norm. It's true. I've seen Mike Pence before. He's a typical hypocritical Christian.
Exactly. He's dangerous.
Not as dangerous as Donald Trump.
Can I just slip something in here?
How become the benchmark of somebody being better?
Because he's president now.
Because
you had the snake bite.
Because
you had the snake bite, and now you have to understand the difference between things you don't like but can live with that are normal.
Right.
Look,
life doesn't give you two great choices. Adults choose the better.
Brother
there
Bill,
is no great one.
I live in New Jersey. If I had voted for Hillary Clinton, it would.
Look at Neil deGrasse Tyson cowering there in the corner. He's already been scared back into the cult, and Frum and Bill Maher are basically trying to corral Cornel West back in with his whole Intifada scarf, the keffiyeh around his neck, which I have no clue why he wears that. You're 67 years old or however old you are. Wear a fucking tie. You're not out hiking in the desert. That's where you would wear a keffiyeh.
Would have made a whip of difference because she needed to win Wisconsin. She needed to win Ohio. She didn't go to Wisconsin. She lost because she didn't go to the right
I live in the
places.
District of Columbia.
So you know
I live in the District of Columbia. It made less of a difference. That's not why you vote.
Brothers that you're always talking about wouldn't lose their health care under Hillary Clinton, and they will under Donald Trump if he gets his way. So please, I don't know who you think you're standing up for.
No, but let me put it this way, though, brother. Let me put it this way. You are absolutely right in terms of these particular instances in which the difference would have been made. But for you to have to then still hide and conceal the underside of Hillary Clinton and end up lying about her contributes to the lies that's been pervasive. That's my point. My aim is not just to win election.
Okay, this is what I call the bloody ballot campaign. For those of you that don't know, after the Civil War, Republican politicians would campaign around the country waving the bloody shirt, we're going to keep the Confederacy from coming back into power. If you vote for the Democrats, you're basically voting for return to the Confederacy. And that was kind of... it was kind of a cop-out because, yes, there was an issue with the Democrats. They were a very racist party at the time. But that's not a position. You don't campaign basically on yourself not being the other thing. I'm campaigning because I'm not gonorrhea. That's basically your campaign position. So the people would say, I mean, maybe you're not gonorrhea. Maybe are you the chlamydia party? And then they would answer, no, we're the not gonorrhea party. No other guarantees. That's not a position. That's not a vision of anything. Lynn McCarthy says if Mar is critical of Islam, that's good, but this is pure. Yeah, Mar is very critical of all religion, and he's not. He is a bit snooty about it, but he does make a number of good points. And he had a movie called Religulous, which was a very intelligent look at religion as a whole, including Islam and Christianity and Judaism. So I wouldn't say that he's totally worthless. And I those of you that haven't seen it, it's a good movie. Whatever you think about Bill Maher. Just My Stupid Opinion says Maher claims to be a left-wing libertarian, but he never shows a libertarian bone. Not libertarian at all. Pinochet also said something important earlier. He said, none of these idiots realize it's not about Democrats and Republicans anymore. It's us versus the establishment. So that's where we get to, I'm saying the bloody ballot campaign. What Democrats are doing now is similar to things that Republicans have done in the past years to Ron Paul supporters or to, Ross Perot supporters. And they've said, look, you're basically going to ruin everything for us if you vote for people that you think are principled candidates. You need to vote for somebody who is going to be basically enough of, not enough of a poison for the other side for some of their dumber people to vote for him. And that doesn't work because what it basically says is that there is, let's assume like 33% of the population will vote for, either party. And then you have 67% of the population that don't care because neither party offers them anything. So that type of mindset assumes that you can't get the other 67% of the people to vote for anything. So you compete over the 33% that is voting. And that's what the Democrats do. They basically say, we need to win the center. So they go to the Bernie bros and they say, look, Bernie Sanders, I get it that he was very nice and whatever and did everything, but we need somebody who's practical, who's going to win an election, and not somebody who's actually going to implement policies that, present a vision of the United States as people would want it to be. We're going to present a vision of the United States as people have been driven to expect it. And that's where the Democrats have failed because people do want a change. That's obviously that's why some people want us to succeed with North Korea, work with North Korea. Is that too much to ask? Democrats tell the voters what they want, but they don't want it. Well, it's not only they're telling them what they want, they're telling them what to want. And they'll go to these voters and they'll tell them, the most famous case is when they try to make the point that they want universal health care, the Democrats will say, but at the moment it's only practical to want to fix Obamacare. Well, what does the fix actually mean? The fix means that you bail out these exchanges that are failing and essentially hand more corporate money to these, more federal dollars, more corporate welfare to insurance companies. That's not a progressive position. And it's not a conservative position because, those of us or libertarian, whether conservative or libertarian, in terms of a vision for our country, we don't believe in handing out corporate welfare either. So I think on that, there's actually more common ground between between progressives and conservatives than there is between these so-called liberals and progressives. Okay, these liberals are living in a Keynesian world where they say there are certain industries that we can prop up through corporate welfare. That's just not the case. The insurance industry can survive without the U.S. government giving them free money. Lennon McCarthy says Obamacare sucks. You're telling me. I hope they repeal whatever's left of it this year. And if they don't, then you really do. I mean, I hate to say this. We might actually have to vote this year. Because I live in a state where there's not much to vote for. We have a governor that's leaving office, and the next guy is going to be either this moron who supports Elizabeth Warren. His name is Richard Cordray, who's an idiot, and Mike DeWine, who's basically like the guy who the type of person that you would expect to own a tennis club. He's a nice person, but what has he ever done for you? That's it. Pink Pony says sucks like a bisexual. Is that a knock on Obama himself or something because of Michelle? So they'll basically label these Bernie bros the same way, and this is both from my experiences with these people in the Madness File and from other people that I know. And they'll give them these smears. They'll say Bernie bros are misogynist and unwilling to back a female candidate like Hillary Clinton. But the fact is, a lot of them did vote for Jill Stein. I wouldn't say the majority of them did, but a lot of them did. And by the way, a lot of them did vote for Hillary Clinton. There are a lot of Bernie people that did vote for Hillary Clinton. Let's not forget that. But not enough. McCarthy says, I voted in the primary, the California primary. I'd be interested to know what he voted for. Whether he voted for, who he voted for Senate, for example. Or for governor over there. It was a big race. Then they say, along with Donald Trump, the Stein and Sanders campaigns were pushed along by Russia. That you can talk about the Mattis file with that. They killed Joan Rivers because of it. Sanders supporters are often disaffected white male racists that agitate for a trade war. Now that's their news thing, that Trump and the progressives and the conservatives are driving us into a trade war. Look, I think that there's problems with getting into trade issues with Mexico and Canada. I don't want us to have a trade war with Mexico or Canada or Italy or France. Actually, no, fuck France. I don't care. I'm fine with having a trade war with them. But the Italians, I don't care. Why would I want a trade war with Italians? I've never had any problems with Italians in my life. But the issue is that the Democratic Party, they've repeatedly over the years, advertised themselves as the party of organized labor. That they talk about how the AFL-CIO, which is the largest trade union in the United States, they say, oh, they always endorse us. Well, the fact of the matter is that on the 20th anniversary of NAFTA in 2014, they said, unfortunately, the enduring result of NAFTA has been just the opposite of success. Stagnant wages, increasing inequality, and weakened social protections in all three countries, the U.S., Canada, and Mexico. And I'd say, if NAFTA is such a success, then why are Mexicans continuing to come to the USA in order to get better jobs? And then regarding the TPP, which was on the Democratic agenda in 2016, contrary to the wish of the Sanders people, also contrary to Trump's wish. So the union's president, the president of the AFL-CIO, called the TPP a new low. Bernie Sanders and his support. This is the last one. Bernie Sanders and his supporters damaged the Democratic Party and divided it with their hateful rhetoric. That's from Peter Dow, by the way. This is a direct quote. He says here, acknowledging the damage Bernie Sanders did to Democrats is essential to winning future elections. It's all here. And then he gives this shitty site that, the social media network for Hillbots. They're it. What a fucking joke of a person. Trump just wants a handy from Trudeau, then everything will be good. Ew. It's disgusting, man. All things being fair, Sanders supporters do get graphic, but it's not as if their opponents are shrinking violets. In June 2016, Vanity Fair declared in an op-ed, did Bernie Sanders hand Trump the election? In April 2017, Progressive pro-Hillary blogger Chris Hall decried the toxic centrism of Bernie Sanders. What Hall and others meant was that Sanders was upsetting their identity politics distractions. See, Pink Pony is such a weirdo, man. Lennon McCarthy says illegal immigrants drive down wages. It's slave labor. It is. I don't think we should be happy that these people are working, for such little money. And they also had this, if Sanders, there's three reactions they get to Bernie Sanders Bernie Sanders supporters bringing up anything that objects to the Democratic agenda. It says if Sanders supporters revisit the grievances of the 2016 primaries and caucuses where there was clear evidence of DNC tampering as admitted by Donna Brazile, they were told to shut up and move on, or that they are hurting the party unity. And that, there's this article to prove it. It says, fuck Bernie fucking Sanders. He's not Messiah. He's a very naughty boy, by Val Perry. And how many claps does this have? 1.2 thousand. And you see these people, these people are like, I spent so much time hoping you weren't just fucking this all up, Bernie. I pulled all my punches. I tried so hard to go high when your acolytes were telling me I was selfish to worry about Roe. No more. You gave us the bird. I'm through watching you fuck the party. Then Lori Mueller, when I first read this, I actually wondered if I had gotten really high, poured my heart out, posted it, and forgot about it all. And the next day, it completely expresses the way I feel and makes me so happy that I'm not alone. Thank you for writing it all down. Lennon McCarthy says Bernie didn't tell white men to fuck themselves. That's problematic. Yeah, I mean, the guy's unforgivable, isn't he? Elizabeth Warren naked is toxic. Yeah. I'm delighted to see this online again. Apparently enough burners complained that Huffington Post censored. So yeah, this did used to be on the Huffington Post. It seemed familiar. Anna Pinonista says, oh my God, thank you. You pretty much just rage typed almost everything I'm feeling. Can't wait for the Russia piece. So where's her Russia piece? The gaslighting of the Democrats. Resist the victim-blaming progressive bullshit. I wish Hillary Clinton was the evil supervillain the far right and far left think she is. I wish she did have the power to rig elections and murder her enemies. How fucking amazing would that be? It would make Game of Thrones look like Eat, Pray, Love. And she says, oh, she scared the fuck out of Vladimir Putin. How would Vladimir Putin be afraid of somebody who basically fainted at a memorial ceremony? And then she goes on and on and on. And then she says, basically, Rosa Parks, I guess she's not, better luck next time. Says next time a mansplaining penis truther tries to argue that we can't possibly run a woman candidate in 2020, remind him that this is not, in fact, how progress gets made. You know who told us to keep fighting America is worth it. Hillary Clinton, who Putin hated and feared. Nobody is afraid of Hillary Clinton. I mean, some people are. I mean, let's be honest. They're afraid that she's going to have them murdered. Which ironically makes her a little similar to Vladimir Putin. This article is just toxic, sewage here. Follow her on Twitter. That's Worst Prez 29. Worst Prez Ever 29 over here. Let's find that one. This woman, yeah, look at that face. Look at that face. What else is she saying? Do not attempt to reason or unify with burnouts. They are irrationally malicious. If the White Walkers were coming, they'd vote for the fucking White Walkers. That's how much they hate us. Lennon McCarthy, look at that. She's talking about you, buddy. I could just see his face, man. You should do a video on that. You should do a video. I'll watch it. Pinochet says a lot of people have forgotten that the first person who was blamed for hacking the DNC was Bernie Sanders. Yeah, he hacked them by saying, I might want to be a candidate too. It's so funny because they're blaming him when really they fucked up. Stop the red flood in 2020, vote blue. Using a fucking tampon. And they think this is compelling. Nobody is really convinced to join because of that. That's a nice last post from Pink Pony. Pinochet says, and that's when the Clintons brought in CrowdStrike and began the Russian collusion debacle. Okay, so that's enough of that. Read my article. It is on the Hard News Network. What is going on here? Oh. You have all these people here. Fucking man, the Democratic Party wants unity, then it needs to move beyond last year, and not by legitimizing the losing half of that primary while erasing the winning one. What kind of unity is he promoting when he cannot even tell his followers in an email that he is going out with the DNC because he has so falsely demonized the DNC? I mean, these people are delusional. Pinochet. Yeah, good night, Pink Pony. Yeah, well, you're welcome back anytime, man. It's hilarious. Good shit tonight. Okay, so that's just one thing. If Sanders supporters express skepticism, again with the trolling. If Sanders supporters express skepticism of the Russian hacking theory that states that the 2016 election was tampered by Kremlin-directed trolls, spies, or collusion, they are accused of being party to the actual collusion and dismissed as bots or trolls. And here's case in point. Indictment, Russians also tried to help Bernie Sanders and Joe Stein presidential campaigns. Of course, I've written extensively about, debate, talked about it. Adrian's talked about it. Jim So, with the whole Mattis file. Tomorrow night, by the way, 11 p.m. Eastern time, I'm going to be talking on the Hard News Network with the Hard Bastard about the Mattis file. We're going to have Just My Stupid Opinion and two of the Bernie Sanders people, possibly three. And, possibly I just got another message, there might be another podcast on it, but, not related. So we'll be discussing that, and that's exactly the point. Have a good night, Pink Pony. If ex-Sanders supporters state that they voted for Jill Stein, she is then denounced as an agent of Russian collusion, and they are tarred through guilt by association. And they do it, I didn't vote for Jill Stein. I still think she's, I don't like her policies at all. I think she's a pretty good person, all things considered, and it's wrong. You can't do that. It's just bullshit. And then finally, last article. So do read my new article here. It is in the description. I think it's the first link in the description. Do read it. Please like it and share it. Tweet it out. Pimp my shit. Potcoin.com, Hard News Network. Last thing is, Kathleen Kennedy is still the best person to make Star Wars movies in Forbes magazine. Who's this guy? I work as a screenwriter for film and TV. In a former life, I was a media specialist and campaign ad writer. And then this guy, this guy's a clown. Does it have a fuller biography of him at the bottom? No. And look what he says. Rumors surfaced this week that Lucasfilm president Kathleen Kennedy might step down from company leadership in the aftermath of Solo, a Star Wars story's box office failure. This comes amid rampaging racism, sexism, and other extreme toxic behavior from a segment of mostly Pinochet and white fans who've taken to harassing female actors and artists for existing. This is Pinochet. It's all because of you. You pissed off Forbes magazine, man. This is all part of a larger bigoted backlash of complaints. Did we lose Jimso? Let me see here. Yeah, I think we did lose him. Sorry. This is pretty long. But what am I supposed to do? I haven't done a live stream the entire week. I have a lot of stuff to talk about. I don't think I even got to nearly the amount of things I wanted to. And we spent so much fucking time on that first charlatans article on the New York Times. This is all part of a larger bigoted backlash of complaints against Star Wars for incorporating people of color and other types of diversity into the previously predominantly white male storytelling. Mindless screams of "keep your politics out of my entertainment" abound from that corner of fandom, ignorant of the most basic facts about what the films say and represent. The Empire's designs and titles were heavily influenced by fascism and Nazi imagery. The Ewok Uprising was a veiled commentary about the Vietnam War, and the entire concept is about rebelling against authoritarianism and fighting back against oppression and slavery. This is the same group of fans, remember, whose entire rant is rooted in their own personal politics and a desire to see their personal preferences projected onto the screen, while nobody else is entitled to the same right or representation. That enraged reactionaries want to deny everybody else equal representation while demanding their own right to be heard and obeyed is hardly new or shocking, of course. These types of vulgar fans always existed because fandom is just a portion of the population as a whole, and the population always includes angry, self-entitled bigots. Let me see here. What's Len McCarthy saying? There was no such thing as interfering with elections with Facebook ads until Crooked lost. Twitter is punishing me for setting off their censorship algorithms. Yeah, I think you did. You should put out a video about that, by the way, because that was interesting. I did see you posting about that, Lennon McCarthy. By the way, follow him at Comrade McCarthy. Put your new Twitter handle too. He has 2 Twitter accounts now because Jack Dorsey. He's not man enough to eat Chick-fil-A without apologizing, but he'll censor some dude from California who just wants to make videos about stuff. They should stop making shitty Star Wars movies. Pinochet says, amazing how Bernie and Jill both got steamrolled by the Democrats' propaganda machine and said almost nothing. Sad. Bernie equals the cuckening, angry, self-entitled bigots like SJWs. So what are they doing here? Really, the problem that you're seeing here is that you're having Forbes magazine publish an article by somebody attacking the fandom of a particular film series. And I'll tell you what, you're not going to earn many new fans that are going to compensate for the loss of the people who have already been, in love with Star Wars their entire lives. There are people who watched the film series in the late 70s of all races, Asians, blacks, white people, Mexicans, Brazilians, if Revan Starkiller is there. Arjun probably, let's not assume he did, but possibly Arjun liked Star Wars. Len McCarthy, yeah, that's his new handle, at Lenin Trumsky. I think I am following him. Arjun Sinha says, what a rant. This guy sees racism anywhere. They just replace racism with kids and voila, we have a pedophile. Yeah, essentially. In other words, it's fine to ignore them and to not care what they want or what they say and to deny them the myopic, whitewashed world they demand. They don't deserve representation of their ideas since their ideas are backward, hateful, and devoid of merit in the first place. If you scream in anger about seeing other people represented, if you harass and insult and threaten marginalized people for daring to exist, and to appear in movies, then you and your beliefs have no place in modern storytelling or modern society, except as villains to be defeated and cast aside forever. While those racist and sexist reactionary fans probably did boycott a couple of the movies look, they didn't boycott the movie because enough of them saw the movie and gave bad reviews because they hated the movie, and they said to their fans and people that they're in contact with through through their chat rooms, they said, no, we don't want to watch that movie. It's ridiculous. They've had enough of this Rose Tico, for example. That's the one they're talking about, the Rose Tico. There's a whole group of people called Tico Paths right now. The people, I think those are the fans of hers. Arjun says, I love Star Wars. I saw all the movies. While those racist and sexist reactionary fans probably did boycott a couple of the movies in theaters, they're too small and insignificant a part of the overall theatrical audience to make any real difference. And they certainly didn't cause the failure or underperformance of any new Star Wars movies, however much they posture and pretend otherwise. So there is no reason to think Solo or other Star Wars movies failed because they didn't pander enough to delicate sensibilities of a loud corner of angry white boys. Nor is there a reason to think future Star Wars movies should try to win over that racist, sexist crowd. Before anyone starts complaining, let me point out that if you aren't one of the people engaging in the bad behavior, then clearly that means none of what I'm saying is talking about you. Nor is anything I've said a claim that disliking Solo or other new Star Wars movies inherently makes you a racist or a sexist. I'm talking about the people who are behaving like racists and sexists and how their complaints are invalid. So if you didn't act that way, then you have nothing to complain about regarding my article. So if those are the people that did not if he's claiming that those aren't the people that tanked the movie, then why does he care? Those people aren't that big of a sector of the population in his mind. So he's claiming that they should just keep going on. So it says, this is what he's really doing. He's basically brown-nosing for Kathleen Kennedy, saying the refrain against Kathleen Kennedy is not merely coming from the toxic segment of fans and many people who have argued for a need for different leadership at Lucasfilm to do so in the context of behind-the-scenes decisions and changes during the past 4 Star Wars films. They point out a lot of filmmakers have been hired and fired or have had their work redone or fixed by someone else, and that there has been a consistent refrain about problems and troubled productions for several of the films so far. This argument also notes that if you are the president of a company, then you have to own the decisions and own the outcomes, good or bad. And in that spirit, Kennedy has had one film, The Last Jedi, slightly underperform, and another, Solo, that outright failed. That's half of the new films, they say, and so when all is said and done, the future health of the Star Wars brand requires new leadership. However, I think that the viewpoint overemphasizes the wrong things while underemphasizing the most important things. Yeah, that's a convoluted way of saying that. Glenn McCarthy says, am I the only one who feels the Bold receives comments like 5 minutes later than the rest of us? Yeah, I'm on a delay first of all, you guys are on a lag. So, what do you want me to do? McCarthy says, I don't know about the SJW stuff, but the movies just aren't good, not well written. They're objectively shitty movies. So here it is. And I think it exists in a larger evolving context of reactions towards Star Wars that include rising sexism and intolerance. While there are plenty of arguments for changing leadership that are unrelated to the sexism and intolerance, we can't ignore when those terrible negative social contexts carry over and become at least part of the narrative and push for new leadership. I believe that is happening in the growing chorus of calls for removing Kathleen Kennedy, one of the most powerful and successful women at the head of a major studio. Despite the constant refrain of negativity directed at Kathleen Kennedy, Lucasfilm delivered 3 critically successful Star Wars pictures in 3 back-to-back years. So that's the key word, critically, because all the critics have been bought out now, so that's what matters. that the critics liked it, not that the audiences liked it, because the audience doesn't matter, and he's already made that clear. Pinochet says, after the 1980s, the Star Wars franchise became unrecognizable, and therefore I hate it. And this shit just cements it for me. You know, Rogue One was an amazing film. And I don't remember what was the film before that one, the one that was Episode 7, but, you know, that one was like, you know, I didn't feel, it sucked that I didn't think it was great. I didn't think it was awful, but, you know, there was virtually no comparison to watching Empire Strikes Back. The acting was much better in Empire Strikes Back. The storyline was crisp. There was no agenda. It was a pure storyline. It was crisp storytelling. You know, just a fresh perspective. They can't do it. It just doesn't work. I don't know what the hell they did, but they're not doing it right. George Lucas was a genius, and the people who have come since then, you know, they went out of they lost their minds compared to him. I think that he did do the prequels. Those were not that good either. The movies get increasingly bad. The 3 prequels weren't as bad as these. Yeah, I heard that too. Again, the one before Rogue One wasn't awful, I think. I thought Rogue One was an amazing film, and that's me. I mean, I hear also from other people they thought Rogue One was pretty good. Sinha says, Pinochet, are you talking about the Ewok movies? I don't know. He's not talking about the Ewok movies. He's talking about Phantom Menace and Attack of the Clones and that other one. Despite the constant refrain of negativity directed at Kathleen Kennedy, Lucasfilm delivered 3 critically successful Star Wars pictures in 3 back-to-back years, earning A grades from audiences and a combined $4.4 billion in global box office. It doesn't matter what you think about the process of director selections, the changes made during various productions, or other aspects of how the sausage gets made that we regularly hear about nowadays. The bottom line is the bottom line, and Kennedy has overseen a remarkably successful at every level franchise revival. No, she hasn't. If we'd been aware of all the arguments, tensions, and troubled productions during the original Star Wars trilogy, would fans and media have called for studio heads and producers to be removed from the franchise? Solo is the first real failure of the entire Star Wars franchise. But let's be clear, the film still received positive critical reception and an A- grade from audiences, so its failure is strictly financial. No, it's not. No, it's not. Those reviews are fucking fixed. People were, first of all, critical reviews don't mean shit anymore due to Rotten Tomatoes playing with, you know, basically Rotten Tomatoes isn't what it used to be. You just have these critics delivering the consensus review that everybody wanted. It happened with Black Panther, by the way, which wasn't a bad movie, but it wasn't a movie that should have had the high reviews that it did have. It was a pretty good movie. Maybe Rogue One was all right, but they all blur together to me. I mean, go back and see it. I'm telling you, it was a good movie. But financial is what matters in business, of course. Solo is a financial blemish in what had been a consistently successful... Oh, shit, I lost my flip-flop. Solo is a financial blemish on what had been a consistently successful cinematic brand. So it's fair to say studio leadership has to take responsibility, as long as we also give plenty of credit to that same leadership for the remarkable success with other 3 films. Should Episode 9 be another home run to the tune of $1+ billion with positive reviews and audience A grades, no amount of yeah but arguments that can diminish the fact Kennedy oversaw the revival of one of the most important and successful franchises in history and delivered 4 billion+ acclaimed hits in a 5-year period, and just one financial failure that earned positive reviews and viewer grades. Those are not the reputation results of a studio head needing removal. Kathleen Kennedy took risks, made changes, and delivered a 5-film slate of Star Wars revival films that will have generated $6 billion over well-reviewed and well-liked movies. If Episode 9 manages to top $1 billion, as I fully expect it will happen, that's a record any studio should be proud of, and it matters more than all of the rumors and gossip about the behind-the-scenes production troubles. So if Kennedy's leadership and decision-making were largely responsible for the problems that transpired during Solo's production, and if that in turn is directly to blame for the box office failure of the film, then I'd point out Kennedy's leadership and decision-making were also responsible for how the other films turned out, too, and it's definitely worth the trade-off when it results in the blockbuster results those films received. I don't know why I mean, these people, they have to write a whole fucking report just to defend Kathleen Kennedy's entire life. I'm telling you, this fucking movie, if Forbes magazine has to trot out people to basically white knight for her, then the film probably sucked. And maybe I'll take it out from the library on DVD at some point and take a look at Solo. And I'm not a huge Star Wars nerd, but it's like, if people hated the film, just accept it and fuck off. That's about it. I'll see you guys later. Good night, Len McCarthy, Pinochet, that pink whatever it was, pink pony guy. There was, who else was here? Jeffrey wasn't here today. Shame on him. Then there was, who else was back there? Jimso and Arjun, of course. And I don't know. I missed somebody else. Anyway, have a good night. I'll talk to you guys later.